welcome to this episode of Mainline Connect. My name is Jennifer Lynn Robinson, and my guest today is Alex Archawski, and he has different hats that he wears. So he is the founder of the Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network, which we'll discuss, and then also is a sales trainer and sales coach with the Sales Evolution Company. Welcome, Alex.
Well, thanks for having me on, Jennifer.
Thanks for being here. So, we like to start off with a networking topic, and I know how involved you are, obviously, having found the Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network. How do you go about teaching returning vets about the importance of networking?
Well, it's interesting you say that. So if you think about the DNA of a service member, they do not like to talk about themselves.
No, they don't. Yeah.
And networking is really about getting yourself, your brand, everything out there to make connections to your personal goal and making introductions as well. So there were meetings in the military, but not networking.
Right.
But really, they were networking and they didn't realize it.
Okay.
So the focus is teaching them the skills by bringing them and opportunities locally here, like the Society of Professional Women give free tickets for veterans.
Right. I love that organization.
To learn how to network. So it's fabulous.
Okay. Yeah, because I would think, there's also an aspect of networking that's very much, I think, about self-promotion. And I think overall, if I'm making a generalized comment, military people are not really about self-promotion.
They're not, especially when it deals with transitioning, when their goal is for a job and a career. Mm-hmm. They really don't understand that the percentage of the jobs are never posted.
Right.
So they're chasing what we call big logos. Big logos are the top companies.
Okay.
But they don't understand that 80% of our economy is small businesses.
Yeah.
And where do they share jobs typically? At
networking events.
Right. Chambers, rotaries, all those. So they have to be in the mix.
Okay.
And it's really understanding the skills, and they're good at adapting.
Yeah.
And they do very well. But it's understanding where and how.
Okay.
And that's what we can help them with.
Good. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your own military background.
Well, my background was I went to college 3.5 years. I paid my own way.
Okay.
Ran out of financial aid. I said, you know what, I'm going to finish it off in the military. My dad was in the French Navy, and I joined the U.S. Navy, and growing up here for a number of years. And went in intel and then as a rescue swimmer.
Okay.
I tried out and made it to be the rescue swimmer for a ship. Got out, lived in Japan for a number of years, got out of the service, transitioned, understood what the transition was like, understood what I should learn better. My background's a little bit in Six Sigma, so it's process-oriented.
Okay.
I stayed in the reserves. With reserves as part-time, so I still wanted to serve my country. And in the meantime, 9/11 happened, and our unit based in Annapolis, which was a small boat unit, was called back up to active duty. So my employer, coincidentally, 3 weeks prior to my deployment, let me go. And I put all my stuff from my apartment in storage.
Okay.
Proposed to my wife, and then left for deployment.
Wow.
And then I came home. Had to do it all over again, but it was a little bit overwhelming because of what I call just the rush of coming back from it. Mm-hmm. But also understanding that I had to start all over again. And I was a little bit hesitant because of the fact that I didn't know if I trusted the next employer, which really was I was in my own way. So I said there has to be a better process, and I saw the organizations that were out there, and I formed the Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network really specifically with multiple missions in mind for that.
And tell us about those missions.
Well, what I saw was missing and was defining your career.
Okay.
So as a rescue swimmer, I wasn't going to swim in the Schuylkill or the Delaware River.
Right.
I don't think anybody wanted
right.
to, but those were my two career choices. And sales, underwriting, marketing, finance, all those jobs nobody knows about. So they know what they did, but they don't know what they want to become.
Okay.
So if you look at it, they write about their past, but not the future. And human resources, they really want to know, do you want my job? They can't fully understand that it's not really sometimes their job. They can only be patriotic so much. They just want to know, I just want a candidate that wants my job. Mm-hmm. So we do programs like Take a Vet to Work, like Take Your Daughter to Work.
Right.
We do an open house.
Okay.
We've done it with SCI, Wawa, and a bunch of others. So veterans can go into civilian companies to understand what they want to do. So giving them the workforce skills of understanding career objective, where to network, how to network, teaching them all those abilities, and creating the largest network of veterans so they can tap into it. So we have about 1,500 veterans in different industries.
Okay.
And what I found also evolving from that was it was the life cycle of the veteran. Some people that were out there in business wanted to network.
Right.
and some people wanted to grow their business as entrepreneurs or start their business. So within a year or two, we created an organization really to be Philadelphia to become one of the best destinations for veterans for employment, leadership, and entrepreneurship. So we do skills of how to stay a leader outside the military.
Okay.
And then we also do a Shark Tank for vets.
Right.
We're doing our fourth one. We gave out $10,000 last year.
Okay.
The winner, if everybody can look up, is called We Train, and they're
what is
like
it?
An app like Uber, but it's for physical fitness.
Okay.
So you hit the app, and the personal trainer comes to your office. You're home.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
So they were our winner, and we give them $10,000. So our job is to empower, but to showcase the success of veterans in this community. So we're doing a big campaign called Buy from Veterans,
Okay.
because everybody always says, what can we do for our veterans? And some people are in great positions in companies where they should be buying from veteran-owned companies.
Right.
So a lot can be done, and we're educating it through chambers, educating through different areas, colleges, universities, and we work primarily with student veterans because they use the GI Bill.
Okay. So given all of that, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about returning vets?
I think what happens is there's a lot of stories. Let's take the story of what we heard in the news as well. Remember a couple years ago when they talked about the shark attacks in Florida?
Uh-huh.
What did everybody think? That
I should
everybody
stay away from sharks?
I should stay away from sharks. That's
Right,
yeah,
what
right.
I thought, yeah.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
But what specifically about Florida?
I don't know.
That there were sharks everywhere,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So the news can really morph
Right.
the,
Well, anyway,
that information.
yeah.
Media.
Yeah.
So the media is challenged to write about some of the challenges that veterans have, which they are getting help, and there are a lot of great organizations out there. But the media is selling it that all veterans have issues, which is not the case.
Right.
There's some people that need a little bit longer to come home, some people that need to transition. It's a cultural and social change. And some people can do it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So the misconception typically is about veterans need help.
Right.
When really they want you to buy from them. They're ready for employment, and they're ready for leadership skills because of all the personal traits they come out to. And so the misconceptions can be there. But for the majority, a lot of people understand the value of what they bring.
But it's a little bit changing the mindset from one of veterans need help to veterans can help your company.
Absolutely.
They can be an asset.
They can be an asset. So sometimes if you think about human resources, they're risk adverse.
Right.
So if they hear information, they're not likely to do things. Not saying that all companies do that.
Yeah.
But certain companies can. And it's just an education. So we have a training module for employers called Learn, Engage, and Hire.
Okay.
So before they hire, what are they learning about the veterans? What's a transitioning veteran? What's in greater Philadelphia? What's the age? How do they transition? What's their skill sets? Engage. Where do I engage them? Teach them at universities. We take them to base called Take an Employer to Base Day. And they touch and feel the service members and the skills they give. So I'll give you a perfect example. The director of inventory for SEPTA was meeting one of the leaders of the Army for what's called the motor pool, but it's the mechanic shop.
Okay.
Of all the Humvees where they're getting fixed. And they were sharing information of how they do inventory.
Great.
So what they did in the civilian end, they understood what rank in the military did what responsibility.
Okay.
And what companies are learning is at a young age, they're given so much responsibility that when they hire them, they don't have to train them. They just need to keep them busy because they bring in some exceptional skills.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's wonderful. So in addition to all of this great work you do with your organization that you founded, you're also a sales coach and sales trainer at Sales Evolution. Can you tell us more about what that is and why it's important for people to look to hire somebody like you?
Absolutely. So, if you think about, there's two objectives, one for the veteran and one for a business. A veteran wants to attain a job, right?
Right.
So do you tell them what to do, or do you ask them questions of what's preventing them from being successful? Sales is the same way.
Right.
So it's really understanding, do they have bad habits? How to get away from those bad habits? And do they have a process?
Okay.
So the important part is, we always say, what is the culture of learning and development in each company? And some companies get it. They do it over and over where they invest in leadership, they invest in sales training. It's a craft. So companies that are trying to achieve a goal, revenue, personal, or wherever, we are in engagement of conversation. Our job is not to tell them that they need sales training. It's really to help them to understand what they're trying to achieve.
Right.
And a lot of it, believe it or not, is helping individuals that are good to become great
Mm-hmm.
and great to exceptional.
Okay.
We cannot help those that have struggled for a lifetime.
Okay.
That's more of a personal and a leadership issue in these companies.
Is some of it about changing people's mindset, or is it less about that?
A lot of it is the fear of the unknown. So sales, it may lead to something else, but sales is really where people always geared for yeses. So they're hardwired to chase
Okay.
and never get a no.
Right.
They're afraid to get a no. So the process that we teach is called guess-free selling. You're never going to guess. And it's called outcomes. And you have to be disengaged and detached from the outcome.
Okay.
And once you learn and become that and not afraid of understanding if they're a suspect or a prospect, if they're going to buy, they're not going to buy, then you're okay with your sales.
Right.
Because most people don't want to get the no. And some people lead them on, call me next week, call me next month, call me, and it drives business owners nuts because they're like, well, I don't understand what's real opportunities. They have to filter all these conversations. So we teach the salespeople of how to hold the buyer accountable to what they said in the beginning. What questions to ask to make them a prospect or a suspect in the beginning. And it changes some of the habits where people fear. We have a zone called comfortable questions, uncomfortable questions, and
very
extremely uncomfortable questions.
Give me an example of an extremely uncomfortable question.
Well, you work your way up. Typically you ask, what are you looking to do this? Let's say, you're looking to buy your services, and I said, well, that's great. You're looking to buy the service. Can I ask you when you're looking to do this? So this is called the reverse timeline.
Right.
If
is it tomorrow? Is it 3 months from now? Is it that kind of thing? Yeah.
If you're in finance, if you're in long-term care, whatever it is, if they don't have a hard date, you can understand where they're going to be. They're not going to be a now moment. They're going to be a later moment.
Right.
So in understanding and moving them from that point backwards is keys. So through that dialogue, when you understand how people are wanting something or needing something is where the conversations go.
Okay.
So when you ask them the questions and say, can I ask you, why didn't you make the change last year? And
that's an uncomfortable question.
That is an uncomfortable question.
Because it makes you look within yourself and think, what did I do wrong? Or what did I say I was going to do that I didn't do?
And most salespeople don't want to put it off.
Right.
But you have to get them emotional to understand that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They have to say, well, I've wanted to last year, but I think this year is different. Right?
How? How is it different? Yeah.
How? Very good.
Right.
Are you sure you didn't go through our program? So I said, yes, how's this year different? Well, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm like, I understand that you're wanting to make a change. And change is hard. But you have to tell me what is different this year than the previous years of wanting to make change. And it could be difficult in an organization. That's what people always say they want sales training. Right. They always say this year, next year, next year, next year, next year, and it never happens.
Okay.
So you have to really figure out what is their, well, so let's relate it to sales.
Yeah.
So they say, well, we have a goal to meet. Okay. Well, what's that goal? Well, we have to grow by 30% and this year. Can I ask you why that is? And they said, well, we're launching a new product and service, so you're finding out a little bit more information.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question? What would happen if you didn't meet that goal? That's another one of those uncomfortable questions.
That is an uncomfortable question.
He goes, well, we wouldn't meet plan. And I said, and what would happen from there? That's another uncomfortable question.
Right.
It said, well, it would be very challenging for our organization.
You might have to lay people off or,
You're finding out where the personal time they're going to lay, is that important for you?
Right.
Absolutely. We're a family atmosphere. It's truly important. So if you didn't make change, what would happen? Right now, you seem like you're doing well in everything you're doing in sales. We're not doing well enough. So we could go on, and it could go on for a long time, but the extremely uncomfortable question is really getting them to take that step.
Yeah, and then the why now, I think, is really important as well.
Important. Yeah. I don't want to go on too long, but this gives you a taste and bite of not being satisfied for their answer.
Right.
And typically when they get very emotional, frustrated, angry, upset,
that's the place
fearful,
you want them to be in.
You want them to be there because that means they're a serious buyer. Now remember, you always want to make sure to let them an opportunity. It's with you or with somebody else.
Right.
Because you're not selling.
Right.
You're answering their questions.
Got it. Okay, that's very interesting. So, as far as getting referrals and leads and things like that, why do you think some people in business are so much better at it than others?
It's two things. One is time,
Okay.
right? And Jen, I think
Yeah.
you're one of the best at it, right?
Thank you.
It's a business for a business. So it depends. If you look at your business, you have to look at what percentage is referrals, what percentage is prospecting.
Right.
And I think a lot of people try to balance that of saying, am I going to prospect or am I going to be referral? So certain businesses, finance, accountants, lawyers, they don't have maybe business development people.
No, not at all.
They are
Yeah.
really strictly on referral. And typically they refer all themselves, accountant, lawyers, then
Right.
finance, if that not in a specific order. So it's about how you're structuring your environment of referrals in your networking events. And most people, you know, we're working with a new client right now that they weren't understanding how much they were able to connect the individuals. So it's the mindset of going into each meeting of helping the other individual first.
Sure. Yeah.
Figuring out what you can do for them, honest conversation. And that's the art of how to make that engagement and really making it sincere and being honest with them. It may not be now, but I'm looking for an opportunity to help it connect with what you're looking for.
Right.
And keeping that continuous dialogue over time of doing so. And when you have a vast network and you create the vast network, then the connections can start making because you see people left and right
Oh, yeah.
of where everybody is in every industry.
Yeah, I think you can always, the bigger your network is, the more you kind of see those dots connect quickly of how to connect people. But one of the things that I think, and I'm sure you found this as well, is you do have to kind of be on your guard. You know, you want to think the best of people all the time, but there are people that will suck your time and energy, and that you'll realize when you help them that they are not reciprocating. Not that it has to be a, you know, keeping score kind of thing, but there are people that you'll help who will never help you.
Well, it's interesting. This is one of the classes we teach.
Yeah.
It's called Setting Expectations.
Okay.
As part of sales.
Yeah.
As part of referrals. So we just went through this with somebody, and we used the analogy of it seems like the river is running in one direction.
Right.
Without calling them out, you'd use the analogy.
Yeah.
And then most people will laugh at that and understand, especially when it's multiple times.
Right. But they'll take it in. Yeah.
But they'll take it in.
Yeah.
So that's an uncomfortable question.
That is an uncomfortable question.
But the people that are good networkers, traditionally, if they see that and they know they can have that honest conversation, do it.
Yeah.
They do it because what happens is that then they sit around in these safe zones of hoping and waiting. And when especially when they're giving out 4 or 5 to one individual, it's an honest conversation.
Right.
And you can use that line. You know,
I
it
like
seems
that
like
line.
the river is running one direction. You tell me if you're
Right.
seeing it change tides.
Right. Change course. Right.
Change course. And one of the key areas as well that was one area, which was the management and everything and setting expectations, which is
Okay.
huge in sales. The other aspect, believe it or not, is going to be how you explain your services
Right.
for referral. So I'll give you the perfect analogy for that. So imagine if this is what happens pretty much, I'd say 80% of the time of when people are like, I can't get referred.
Okay.
It's because of the way that they asked. Or even if they try to do it with their own customers, they're not doing it well.
Okay.
So pretend you asked me to go to the video store. And remember the old days they had Hollywood videos? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, Hollywood
what was it called?
Video,
Planet?
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster.
Yeah,
Blockbuster,
West
all
Coast
that.
Video. Yeah, all of it.
So if you told me, how many movies do they have? Typically like 10,000, right?
Tons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was kind of the same thing as a referral. You say, Alex, can you go get me a movie?
Mhm.
I'll be like, sure.
Yeah. What
Right,
kind of
right,
movie?
go-
Yeah.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Remember that you said, can
Right.
you go get me a movie?
Sure.
And I said, okay. So I go to the video store, and I walk around the video store. Do you think I come out with a movie?
No,
Why?
because you have no idea what to get. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you articulate, going, Alex, I'm looking for a Western, which is kind of an area.
Right.
John Wayne-ish, Clint Eastwood-ish type of movie. Got it. When you walk in there, you're going to, genre will
Right.
be around along the line. You help me focus. The number one fault of people when they expect a referral, when people ask, they're not clear.
Right.
Everybody's an opportunity.
And I've
that
noticed
can't.
that with people's elevator pitches too. Sometimes you go to events and people say, I'm looking for anyone that might need X, Y, and Z. And really they could zero in on it a lot more. You know, I'm looking for, you know, a company of X size that does this kind of work because they need my services for this reason. They could make it a lot more specific so that people could relate to it. Either they have a need or they might know somebody who has the particular need that they're talking about. But instead, a lot of people seem to get up and say, anyone that, you know, has a chair in their house could use our services. And It's too vague.
It is. So when people say, "What's your verbal business card?" we said we help people that hate being okay.
Yeah, that's great. I love that tagline. Yeah.
And usually it's good to great to exceptional.
Yeah.
And when people are looking at it saying, "Well, no, I refer to baseball." When people are like, "Wait, I've been doing well," and been like, "Well, what relative?" So let's imagine baseball. You bat 275, which is good, and you have 15, 18 home runs, and you have like 70 RBIs. That's good. But what they're doing is they're looking up and they see somebody batting 330.
Right.
All-star game, multiple contracts, Nike endorsement, all that. And they just don't understand. So what happens when some people in sales, when they look back at it and we ask them saying, "Do you know the difference between you and them?" They go, "No." He goes, "That person has a swing coach."
Right.
They practice on their craft.
Yeah.
So sales, if you're in the profession, or the owners understand that the people inside are professionals, you have to practice the craft. Break bad habits, build back up every 5 years, building back up, especially if it's really the bread and butter of how the company makes its business, other than some companies might be strictly marketing. But that's how they should look at it.
Now, what about the idea that there's a lot of people who just think, sales techniques are sleazy and I don't really want to be involved in that world? How do you respond to something like that?
It depends on their experience. So if they're like in procurement, they're buyers, like the used car salesman,
right.
And stuff like that. I think that it's going to change. It's going to change a lot. It really is. I think the old habits of a long time ago was, long time ago, 1950s and 40s, were push
right.
types of things. And people understand if they're in a business sometimes of having salespeople and they have salespeople communicating with them, they're understanding. They're more in tune now of how they want to be communicated and how to communicate with them because they have a team too and they don't want their team to be communicated the same way as well. So it's really the art of understanding too for those that are in the profession to understand that you're never selling. And there's a line that I'm going to use is sales is just a conversation.
Right.
That's it. It's either with us or with somebody else. How
Yep.
can I help you? And the best phrase to use for any salesperson is, "How can I help you?" And the best, if they want to break the barrier of not being sleazy, is just tell them, "I appreciate being here. How can I help you?"
Right. And I think just listening to people's problems, and seeing if you have something that can help solve them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I use a tagline for veterans and I do in life. And I said, it's our tools, your mission.
Right.
And I mean that for veterans where I'm saying the veterans need to use the tools for their mission, which is employment. But the same thing with sales.
Yeah.
And sales means you have to use the provided tools for their success in there. If not, they put the blame on the buyer, the time
Anybody
of the day
else. Yeah.
it rained.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of people, it can be veterans, it could be millennials, it could be anybody in business who really, I think, instead of working for things, there's a sense of entitlement that things should just come to them. With the kind of work that you do as a sales trainer and sales coach, how do you combat that attitude? Or do you combat it? If you encounter people like that, are those not ideal clients for you? Or do you have methods to combat something like that?
It can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen. So with sales training and sales coaching, you do an orientation. And orientation is key to them to understand have they ever been coached before.
Okay.
And then in life, some are coachable, some aren't.
Right.
Same with veterans. It's in the DNA of individuals. If they're trying to achieve a goal, will they let their guard down to talk about their challenges? That's the key.
Okay.
And really it's about, and surprisingly, believe it or not, millennials always seem like they want to learn.
Right.
So they're not afraid to put their guard up, right? And veterans are not, when they understand their environment of what they need to do for their mission. They said, okay, I have X as my challenge. I'm too humble. How do I get over that? How do I practice? Going to networking events, practicing, what we call going to the firing range. Right?
Okay.
Before you go to battle, you go to the firing range.
That's the networking events or the firing range?
And then we do an after-action report, which we
Okay.
did in the military, saying, how did it go? What was different?
Right.
What did you do? How did you present yourself? And being okay with succeeding to fail, or you'll fail to succeed.
Right. Yeah.
And then if they do that, they'll understand they'll be trained and coached either way.
Good. Okay, so, as far as sometimes you have great interactions with people at networking events. You go, you have a good talk, you have a good interaction, you're going to follow up, and then you don't hear back from people. It's just like crickets. They say they're going to follow up with you. They don't. Should you follow up with everyone you meet that you have a good interaction with, or is there a priority of the people that you should spend your time on following up with?
I think it's really on how. And that's a great question, by the way. I think it's setting up on how it was set up at the networking event,
Okay.
right? If you're 2 minutes and you're like, we should grab coffee.
Right, that's different.
That's
Yeah.
different because
Yeah.
that can happen. So you got to split understanding how the scenario went. But if you exchange a good dialogue, it's asking, are you telling?
Okay.
We should grab coffee. Did they respond back?
Right.
Because
And some people don't read those signs.
and
Yeah.
people sometimes are making the statement without asking. So
Yeah.
they should ask and saying, listen, we have a lot. I want to know a little bit more about your business.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how I can help you. Do you have time to grab some coffee? Yeah, great. All right. So I'm going to shoot you an email maybe in the next week or two. Sounds good. If you think about every other time that's been done, most of the people fly their card and make the statement without having the dialogue.
That's true.
And that is the key issue. It has nothing to do. So when people don't hear back, they only have to look within.
Right.
They do. It's how if they felt it was important, they should spend time there talking to the person.
No, you're right. I always think there was this one event I went to a few years ago, and somebody came up to me, and they were with some kind of heating and air conditioning company, and they basically said, hi, I'm so-and-so. I do this heating and air conditioning. Can we meet next week? How's Wednesday? I want to tell you about everything that we can do for you. Didn't ask, what my business was. Do I even have a need for heating and air conditioning services? Is there somebody else I use? Am I having any issues at home that I would even need to meet? It was just, the dialogue was completely one-sided. And I was so put off. They could have been the nicest person, but the way they approached it was terrible in my mind.
It's a learning curve. It's a learning curve. Again, are they going through the right training environment? Hopefully the business owners can understand what tools are they providing for their mission.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Go network.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Go to the wolves.
Go
to the
network.
wolves.
Exactly.
Go to the wolves.
Exactly.
In other words.
And it is unfortunate because I think there are a lot of people, whether they're with firms or companies or that are just told that, just go out and make something happen,
It is.
Yeah.
So, what we can do, and I think you're one of the best at it in networking, is really just be honest with them.
Right.
In a manner just says, I don't know too much if I need it yet, your service, but when the time is right, do you mind if we set that up? I just don't need your services right now.
Right.
Also, would you like to know about my services? And they may say yes, but that gives them a hint of understanding how that dialogue would be. So it's not a teaching environment, but they need to understand. If not, they're going to go around.
Oh no, I know.
And do it, and they could be in their own way. And I think hopefully people get better at it. But because of the way that we're working today with download speed and the way that there is a sense of things happen in the moment, people are not giving themselves enough time anymore.
No. I mean, they don't understand that face-to-face conversation and dialogue is not at the speed of social media and sending out a tweet. It really should be more of a conversation like we've been talking about. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then to understand the quality, not quantity.
Absolutely.
Especially if don't worry about the numbers that you hit at an event. If you're engaged in a really good conversation,
just stay with it. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. So we have a few minutes left, and I wanted to make sure not only that people know how to get in touch with you, but the last thing I did want to ask you about was, I know you're very involved with the local community.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a part of the Ardmore Initiative Board, and, we were talking right before we started about Little League, and I know you've done some stuff with Cub Scouts. Tell people why that's important as far as kind of what we've been talking about, the building relationships.
Sure.
And then also just, tell people how to reach you for everything, as far as your sales training and coaching, and also the Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network.
Well, I think it's the DNA of my family of service before self,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the military was one of those.
Sure.
So it just happens to be. I believe my motto in life is you're going to be viewed by the impact you've had on others rather than the monetary impact you've had on yourself.
Yes.
So either people have it or they don't. And for me, I truly enjoy, coaching my son and scouts and getting that generation to understand their potential, asking the questions, what went right, what went wrong,
Right.
rather than telling them, understanding each game and understanding what they were good at and bad at. And I think what happens is it fuels me to help others. So it's a continuing to serve model a little bit in the military, and the motto of rescue swimmers is so others may live, And unfortunately, that never left me. So working with businesses is kind of a natural fit in that way, and for veterans. So the way that people can contact our organization for Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network is www.gpvn.org. That's Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network. It is a 501c3. We are a volunteer-driven organization. We have multiple volunteers. Either you are part of the network, you've helped the network, or you're going to help the network. Employment, leadership, entrepreneurship. And Sales Evolution is www.salesevolution.com. And you can contact us through that website, which shares who we've worked with and what we do. And
Okay.
that's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time.